So just a small disclaimer, I'm currently sick. I have a flu, so I'm running on medicine, so maybe I die. But anyway, I won't die. So, so basically, in this talk, I will tell a small personal story and how I got there and why. So basically, I have worked in data science and in engineering for over 10 years. I have a PhD in information retrieval from when there was no data science times. I would now put it on my CV I did AI for over 15 years, if I would do that. Anyways, so in all this time, for a very long time, I actually thought product management is bullshit. It's it's such a useless. I worked in teams where we don't need one. We didn't have one. And then about 2 years ago, I became one. Just did it for 1 year until we find somebody to replace. We needed to do it. We needed, in the team, we had this need. So I'm gonna tell you the story about how I did this job without actually having any, schooling in it. So basically, I work at Free now, and one of the products that we have is called the Fare Estimator. Who here has ever used a taxi before? Okay. By app? Yeah, so it tells you how much it costs when you put the address, right? And you're glad when it's accurate, right? So basically, what is Free now? This is a mandatory slide. So it was founded in 2009 in Hamburg. It's actually older than Uber. We have a lot of drivers. Some of the numbers might not be totally accurate. So we are operating in over 100 cities in Europe, and we have developers locations in Hamburg, Barcelona, and Berlin. We have over 1,000 employees now, and out of which I think we have over 40 dataists. Dataists is everybody who works in the data department, marketing, intelligence, BI, data engineering, data science, Hamburg and Berlin. And so basically that's all about Free now. So basically estimating the price of a trip. If you think that we are operating in over 100 cities, so you think you can calculate it in your head for Berlin, you already took a taxi maybe once you came here, but try to tell me how much a taxi would cost in Rome now, right? They have a completely different way of operating. They have a completely different infrastructure in the city. They might have way more traffic jams than in Berlin. Who here has been in London? Have you ever taken a taxi in London or a bus? Yeah. So in London, it's better to take public transport than take a taxi because you might not make it in time. So all of these things go into basically you end up having for each city, you need a different model, right? So we used to have a solution which was implemented by a lot of software developers and various product owners and various C-level people. The company was small and everybody had a stake into how algorithms are and everything. So this was very rule-based in the database. If this city, then do this. If this city, do that. Then add this, multiply by that, and something like that. So they came to us and say, can you help us? So we said, okay, let's do this. We help you. So we had our first meeting and we said, this is a linear problem. You can calculate it in your head. If you go to a city, you can say if it's 5 kilometers and you know how much the taxi costs, roughly you can say how much it is. No. This cannot be. We tried all the possibilities already. What do you mean you tried all the possibilities? How could you have tried all the possibilities? No, this definitely has to be done with neural networks because this is a very complex problem. So I wasn't, for the first meeting, I wasn't really prepared for this kind of dialogue. So then this was a very circular discussion, and they were also and then we can evaluate it. We can do A/B testing on the users to see if it's but we don't need to do A/B testing on the user. We have the data. We can say already if it's no, but we do testing on the users. No, we don't do testing on the. So this went on and on. So basically, we had another meeting where I went a little bit better prepared, and I said, okay, let's look. We're going to do the first thing as a linear model. you could not have tried all the possibilities, because when you say all the features, I think other features. When you say 5 o'clock, I mean 5 o'clock Friday. It's not the 5 o'clock on Saturday. And it's, you go to the city center, you come back from the city center, all of these things. We will put that in the feature pool. So, and we will build a simple linear model and we will put it in the old, application. So the next one, we do again the linear model, but we build a service for it. So then we own it and we manage it. And the product owner of the other team wrote down the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes came, okay, version 1, version 2, version 3, neural networks. I'm like, how did that one get there again? So anyways, so this was like our first try at doing actually a data science project in a company that has been there for a while and was not very data sciencey. So basically what I learned is, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about the product manager role. So I have this nice quote. I spend a lot of time searching for quotes. So I think this is a product manager. It's like a lot of people into one, right? So it's engineer, designer, and diplomat, right? So let's take a step back and think about this as a metaphor. So who here is from Hamburg? Okay, you know we have fish. So the ones that are not from Hamburg, well, maybe you eat fish. Like Barcelona or Port. Anyways, so let's take the market vendor. He sells fish. He knows everything about what he's selling. He knows what effort it is to get that fish to sell it. He knows he cannot sell fish on Monday because nobody's delivering fish on Sunday. So he's not going to sell fish on Monday. He also knows, like, if you come as a customer to him, he will know how to treat you. Like, you say, I want to do fish and chips. Then he's going to give you, like, whatever. Nobody cares about the fish. Or you say, I'm going to do like sushi. And then it's like, okay, like then you have to get the best fish because you're going to eat it raw. And then he knows how to treat you like somebody who knows about fish, or he knows how to treat you when you don't care about fish. So basically, and in order to sell the fish, have you ever bought something from a merchant who's grumpy? Angry? No. So he's like always in a good mood, and he's like, yeah, even if you insult him, he's going to be like, but the fish is good. And so this all of the skills we have the same kind of situations in industry when you deal with all sorts of people at all sorts of levels. So from this one, I'm taking, going back to the product manager and going to what are the stakeholders of the product manager. So on the first stakeholder that I can think of is the user. And the user is not somebody who works in the company. The user is somebody who uses your app or whatever you deliver as a software, data science software or non-data science software. So basically, unless you're building an app that is on purpose a machine learning product where users actually know that it's machine learning serving them, and then they are really picky and like really paying attention to what happens to their data, how it gets, they really want to know. Unless you're doing that, actually users don't care how you got there. All they care about is that they have an accurate, they have a perceived, seamless, natural experience with whatever you're giving them. So who here remembers good job recommendations? One person. Who here remembers bad job recommendations? So the same kind of intuition happens to our app users, right? So if you tell me, like, I'm going to take a trip, it's 10 euros, and you tell me 11, it's fine. You tell me 5 and it's 10 euros, it's not fine. I'm going to be like, I didn't sign up for 10 euros, I signed up for 5 euros. So from the user perspective, you actually have to come up with a metric that is a user metric. So this is something that not all the data scientists are usually equipped to think about it like that, because this is like a business, it comes from the business world. So you have to think like, what is the user going to do with this? And when is the user going to be unhappy and leave your app? And when is the user, most of the time the user doesn't care as long as it's bad. When it's bad, then it's like everybody sees it and everybody talks about, did you see that? It was awful. I used to work for Xing, and I had friends, and they were like, come on, I got like an internship offer. I'm already a senior. Why is it offering me an internship as a job? I mean, some people do internship after senior, but that's not everybody. So everybody knows that when something was wrong. And basically this accuracy metric that you're defining from the user perspective has to stay with the product that you're building the whole time. And you have to basically come up with it and figure out how it fits to the machine learning part. The next stakeholder is other product teams. You're usually going to interact with other teams that have done things before and they know everything and they've already checked everything, right? So you cannot just tell them, we are going to do it better. Like, if you start like that, they're like, what do you mean? We are stupid? No. So you're going to have to say like, yeah, you have to make them feel like you're working. I mean, you don't have to pretend. You actually have to do it together, right? You have to involve them in the decision making about how and what should be delivered, and they have to be on board with the user metric. They have to be on board with you. Tell them we can deliver this MVP in 2, 3, 4 weeks, or well, if it's longer than that, then they're going to be like, okay. So break it down into deliverables and make commitments that then you keep. And also make it very clear that the initial approaches are going to be rather simple rather than complicated, right? And, yeah. So, and actually the most interesting thing, who here works in a company that was invented more than 6 years ago? Okay. Do you do tracking of data? Yeah. So, in order whenever you build a data product, you need to track what you give the user and what the user does with that information, because otherwise you cannot really evaluate. So, if you cannot really track the fact that you showed the user that the trip was going to be 6 euros and the trip was actually 8 euros, and then the user 1 month later is still not booking a trip because they got upset, you cannot really know was it your fault or not? Or worst case scenario is that you say 6 euros and the developer team that is actually facing the user thinks that they know that they should add 20% to that. And then they change your numbers. And if you don't track, you don't know about that. And this happens. So this can happen. So you need to basically push for tracking for everything that you do as a data service, as a data product you actually have. And this is not a nice job to push for tracking, because nobody wants to do this seemingly useless kind of coding that doesn't have like immediate impact on anything. So anyways, the other stakeholder of a product manager in a data science team are the data scientists themselves. And this is where I think like in general, it helps a lot when the product managers are data literate. So, because you have to talk the language and you have to talk the language of the data scientists, and you have to understand how do you translate the user metric that you promised to the stakeholder? How do you translate that to machine learning metrics? And you also have to be able to define and to communicate to the team, because you agreed upon it with the stakeholder, when is good enough. You know, so of course we can do rocket science if we really wanted to do rocket science. I mean, it would take me like a lot of years to go into the field, but but nobody would pay me for that, right? If I would say no, no, okay. So what I mean is that it's not always obvious when good is good enough. And this is something that you sometimes can get lost in translation. It happens also for normal software engineering teams when they do what it's called over-engineering. Over-engineering happens also in data science. Over-data engineering, we can call it. And so basically, so that's what was, yeah. And this is one of the biggest, like, the most important thing, one of the important thing when you talk to both data scientists and product teams, do not promise anything time-wise, until you have an idea if it can be delivered or not, in one sense. So who here has worked in a place where you had somebody that said this can be done in a month, and it was like impossible? Yeah. So without even like exploring the data, like to realize that like you don't even have the data, like how like are you gonna like do it in a month? So again, depends on how the company was built in the first place and so on. The last stakeholder, this is the funniest one, is the upper management. So the upper management, you see this is a magic book. The upper management has this opinion about data science. They were like, they read all these blog articles and Medium articles, and they went to some conferences, and they learned that neural networks are going to solve the universal problem and come up with the number 42. And they basically invested, and they said, we need data science teams to get there now. And then they're like, why is everything so slow? We read it on Medium. It's fast. So basically, and this is why a data science team has to always present their results, intermediate results, bad results, good results, bad results. We always learn a lot from the mistakes and the bad results, but we rarely communicate them. And then if we do not communicate them, there are people who are like wondering, like they remember, oh, but we have a data science team. Oh, I haven't heard them in like 2 months now. What are they doing? We shouldn't hire anymore. Anyways, so basically a lot of presentations, and you also have to be able to have like, you have your data product, and if you can actually translate that all the way to business KPIs, to find a way, like approximately, if we do this right, then we have this increase in whatever people care about. Then this is also really powerful to communicate. And the other one is also that you have to explain that a lot of data science projects and A/B testing and offline evaluation is really useful, because then you end up testing on the data and not on innocent users. Long term, you're not upsetting your users. So I made out of everything a little like mind map about the data science product management, all the things that one has to do. So basically, you need to be able to gather user insights and translate them to data ideas. You need to speak the product language, because you need to speak to the other product teams. You need to speak the data language, because you have to speak with the data scientists. And you also need to speak with the number language, because you have to talk to the upper management, where you present often and you have to push for tracking. You have to have an accuracy metric. And this accuracy metric, again, I'm stressing it like half of the word is gone. It's a perceived accuracy metric. It does not exist in any mathematical book, right? Yeah. So, to summarize, he said it. Yeah, but back in the days, so I added a little bit. Yes. So basically, coming back to my opinion from 2 years ago, because this is something that a lot of the people are, like, a lot of the time I hear data scientists say, like, we've been in this company for a long time, and most of the things we've been working on do not make it to production. So a lot of the work that goes to moving something from a Jupyter notebook or like a little bit of coding to actually getting it to the user out there is involving a lot of communication with everybody and a lot of product management, whether you like it or not. So basically, if you actually want results, you cannot have an attitude or a mindset where you say, this is not my job. Depending on the size of your team, sometimes as a data scientist, you might have to do these things. And it's maybe not fun, maybe it's fun. For some it's fun, for some it's not fun. And you will see. So basically, if you want to, these are like my stuff. I have a Twitter account. I use it quite a lot since I deleted Facebook. I'm organizing the Hamburg Python Pizza Conference, 9th of November in Hamburg. The next day, there's a panel, Coffee and Cake with the PyLadies, with PyLadies Berlin, PyLadies Hamburg, PyLadies München are also going to be there. And otherwise, I do artsy stuff. It's specifically with dinosaurs. because I can always invent dinosaurs, and nobody has to ask me about the names of the dinosaurs because I invented it. So, that's everything that I got about product management. If you have questions.
Questions? There is one already.
Hi, Tereza.
Hi.
Congratulations again for for yesterday. Actually, forgot what it was. What your title is. Anyway, can you talk a little bit about how your work has improved since you started taking up the role, or since someone started taking up the role of project manager?
Well, I didn't have to write Jira tickets anymore. So that was like for me, so it was like this. We always had this dynamics between, you always have in the team dynamics between product management and product manager writes a lot of stories, writes a lot of stakeholder stuff. And then the team itself goes into, we don't have enough autonomy. We want to do this stuff. And then when I was the product manager, I said you know what? Yeah, just do it. I don't do it. Then you do it. And then nobody was writing stories. So I think, so I don't write Jira stories anymore. And actually our product manager, he likes talking to stakeholders and goes to all these meetings. And then I don't have to go to so many meetings. I go to other types of meetings. But I changed one. I don't know if it improved. It's just different.
Hi. So I had a question. Thank you for your talk. And I was wondering about the role of a product owner in your company, and then the product manager, and then you. It sounds like it's all mixed in or something. I don't know. Yeah. Can you?
I'm also not sure about the definitions. So that's why I condensed product owner and project manager into product manager. I try to mix all of them together.
You have product owner,
yeah? It's it's like one person doing project management, but does also the product ownership part where you go to stakeholder and then you collect the requirements from the stakeholder. We could have two, but we at the moment have one.
Question for me. Thank you very much. I think that was a very inspirational talk. In software development, we have the agile, or at least we try to make an agile mindset and also put this into how we develop. What's your take on agility in data science products? Yeah,
we try.
How?
So far we align to the agile of the company. So they do 2 week sprints and we do 2 week sprints. And I think what we are struggling with do we do for more data exploration stories? Does it make sense to assign Fibonacci numbers, or should they be time box? And this is something that there's all sorts of opinions coming from all sorts of places. And I wish somebody wrote an agile manifesto for data science book. Yeah? Is it good? Good. I will. It's not perfect yet, I think. Okay. Thank you. I'll check it out.
How do you plan, time-wise, especially when you're trying a new algorithm or something? How do you plan as a product manager for a data science project?
Yeah, so I think that would be the time boxing thing. They say spend 1 or 2 weeks and see where you get, what you get. You don't have I want to have the root mean square error here, but I want to see with just exploring what do we have in this problem.
But then if it's interesting, then you would obviously give it more time after the time box if it looks like it could work. Yeah. But then that kind of mixes up your whole roadmap, right? Yeah. So long-term planning is difficult.
It's a nightmare. Yeah, there is no, I will read the book. I will check the book out because, we are struggling with that because we try to be a team that does both software engineering and analytics. that we actually put our models in production, and that's even bringing even more not conflicts, but like complications, right? There's benefits, and it's still complex. Yeah. Cool.
What was your biggest surprise after transitioning into the product manager role?
Well, yeah. So I realized, so for me at the time was like, yeah, why is everybody like having such a bad opinion about these people? Then I did it, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's like also like very ungratifying work. So like nobody says thank you to the product manager. It's like, what did they do, right? Just talk to some people. So, yeah, so I think the most interesting challenge, and this is one colleague gave me the advice when I started, he said, like, you have to treat your team as a stakeholder. They are your stakeholder. You have to convince them that they should do stuff, and it's not like just tell them because this has to be done. It's, you have to treat them also as a stakeholder, and that was like something that I didn't like know before. Yeah. Okay. I will have a panel in an hour, so.
So in the big hall.
Yes.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So there's one last question.
Hey, thanks for the talk. Do you think you can be a good product manager for a data scientist project without being a data scientist beforehand?
Well, considering that these days anybody can learn data science, right? So if you basically upskill yourself a little bit to the level, like you would say you would not be comfortable applying for a data science role, but upskill yourself to the purpose of like having an understanding on the ins and out of a data project, and you have a background in project management, then I think if you come into a team that is willing to help you where you need help, then yes. It depends on the team, then yes.
Okay. Everybody can learn data science. That's a strong statement. Thank you, Tereza.